Okay, so the Nakuda we're up to right now is the flow of the Maimer, that V'nifkadeta, which is the Yichud, Chayv Adam Nifkad is Ishtar, a person is obligated to literally visit his wife. Again, it's talking, the context there is in general the obligation, but before a journey. So that's the end of a Yichud of Zoh or Nukva. The reflection, Chas and Kavla down here, husband and wife down here, a reflection of the relationship with Hashem, a reflection of the entire purpose. The entire purpose of life, of creation, is that we should be one with Hashem here in this world, in a home that we create that's conducive for that oneness. That's the whole purpose of creation. So this happens only through Ki Paked Meshavecha the Bittul before. That's Chodesh, unlike Ader-ráshon, where Malchus is dismantled and creation is reconsidered, as it were, and renewed. Creation is not reconsidered every Chodesh, like it is every Rosh Hashanah. Rather, not reconsidered, but the whole relationship is deepened. Again, similar to a marriage. To a marriage that every month, the cycle of the Isha, which is Malchus. So every month there is literally a renewal, a schadshus in the relationship. It's not reconsidered, and you ought not reconsider it. But it's renewed. So this renewal happens dafke through the bittul of Malchus. Malchus is in the Kudah Tachas Yisoid. And that's the connection to the Parashim Kesef Talves Ami that the Medrash says, that the Eibishter said to David the Melech said to the Eibishter, he argued for Yeshev Lomcha, that your world should be settled and equal. The Eibishter says, no. Chesed ve'emes man yintzuru. Who will be the custodians of Chesed and Emes, for which I created the world? And that is, my desire is that there should be Yichud, and it can't be Yichud without separation. Yes means nothing if there is no. If there's never a no, yes doesn't mean anything. It just is, not yes. The Eibishter wants a yes. So in order that there should be a yes, there should be Yichud, there has to be period. And the only way, period means division, and the only way that's overcome is if there's bittul. And that's thanks to Malchus, that relationship the division can be overcome. And in the Yichud, in their Yichud, they are mamshech a level that is higher than both Mashpia and Makabel, which is true of every Yichud. Two things can only unite in the face of something that's greater than them. Because why does it need something greater than them? Because why were they united before? The reason they're not united till now is because each one is in his own world. So how can that change? It's either I swallow you or you swallow me. That's not unity. Yichud V'nifkadeta means unity, and that's only possible if both are connected to that which is higher than them, which has the effect of uniting them, and at the same time, each one, not uniting them through dissolving each one of them, but uniting them, each one retaining its own identity, but being united in the face of something which is not just higher than them, but the equal source of them. This is a general principle in Chassidus, right? And that's the holding of Chuppah. This is the Nakuda in many ways of the Maimer, which is said before the Chasana. So this is in Kesef Talves Ami. So the Eibishter, the Midrashim, the Eibishter says that if you give Kesef, if you be Mashpia, then you are in me, you're with me. Invoking the posuk, Imcha Mekoyer Chayim. What is with him? The highest levels of Gilui, Mekoyer Chayim, the Ein Sof, And it's from there that the yichud happens. To explain that further, he asked the question, what's the pasuk mean that chesed chafatzti v'lo zevach? So there's a whole beer, and he explained what was the end of the beer yesterday. That the Eibishter wants chesed, not karbonis. Karbonis is the ikir. Karbonis is what makes the dir lo yizborech, the mishkan. So he explained in introducing the inyan of that kolakere krish b'lei tefillin kili hikriv oila b'lei mincha v'zevach b'lei nisochim. So krishma without tefillin is like a carbon without mincha, which the kohanim eat, or an oila completely burnt on mizbeach, which at least the kohanim don't eat of that meat. They do eat the mincha, the meal offering, or a zevach, or a general carbon without nisachim. What's the inyan? He explained, what was in the kud of the explanation yesterday? That the whole, what does it mean? Chesed chafatzti v'lo zevach. At the end, it comes out that if the zevach, of course, he wants karbonis, but if the karbonis is not the hachana that leads to the amshacha, the chesed, then you missed the point. The point is that this world to be suffused with godliness, not simply surrendered. So the surrender is the hachana. So the bittul of malchus is the hachana, but not should stay that way. And marriage is not that malchus, that she is in a state of bittul and he is the supreme master in the house, the mashpia. Chesed chafatzti v'lo zevach. It's the hashpah, it's the unity, it's the gilim l'mayda l'mata, it's the dira b'tachtonim. But how does it happen? It happens through the bittul of malchus. So tefillah, krishma, like thinking of milamata l'mayla, this bittul, this longing. But that has to be balanced with what? With tefillin, which is amshachim l'mayla l'mata, as he explained. Amshachas hamoichim l'mayla l'mata. And then he asked, right? That was now his dalid. What was the question of his dalid? You have to understand that, but we have this in tefillah also. Tefillah is connected to karbonis tiknu. It's a general statement. So it's not just the zevach, but karbonis includes, zevach specifically means the offering of the behemoth, but karbonis is everything. It's nesachim, it's mincha, it's everything. So we have already in tefillah itself. So what's the difference? And then could have iyun tefillah, right? He brought the whole thing of iyun tefillah. That iyun tefillah is one thing, says the Gemara, with comparing the two Mishnahs, not the Gemara, but that was the net result that one Mishnah said 6 things, the principle in this world, and the fruits in this world, and the principle in Elam Haba, and that Mishnah says 3 things. The Gemara answers really it's one thing, because the 3 are included in the 6. What that is that leaves us with, that iyun tefillah is part of Gemilas Chasadim. So we see from here that in tefillah also taka there's the chesed, there's the amshachim l'mayla l'mata. Goyim al nafshe ish chesed. Goyim al nafshe goes on tefillah, and he's a ish chesed. So we see that even in davening, notwithstanding what we said till now, there's the inyan of what? Of chesed. Iyun tefillah equals gemilas chasadim. So explained. What was the explanation yesterday? That the Lamata Lamaila is what the inyan of what? That's the Holy Bananos, Psuke de Zimra. Remember the Merirus. It's not always to say this. And actually, it's interesting to note, it's called Psuke de Zimra, which means verses of song. And here he says it's Merirus, in bitterness. Why is it Merirus? Because a person's misbein and the Hayde al Eretz V'Shamayim. What is Hashem invested in the Eretz V'Shamayim? Only Hayde. Only a glimmer of his presence. And here's where the neshama is being thrusted into such a world where Hashem is so concealed. So that induces a longing, which culminates in Kriya Shema. After Birchas Kriya Shema, the longing of the Malachim, etc., which are the source of the Shabbamis. But he uses the Merirus Isn't that interesting? This is an embitterment, and I explained yesterday, merirus means an embittered matzav doesn't mean a person's sour or bitter. The avodah of merirus is an intolerable state of where a person is. It's bitter, and we have to extract ourselves to elevate ourselves. It's highly motivating. It's very motivating. And yet it's called Psuke de Zimra. And Zimra also means song. Also means to prune. We learned this. To prune thorns. Because here we're pruning ourselves, removing such is abundance in the whole world is a merest glimmer of Elikus. And where is Elikus revealed in Torah mitzvahs? So it takes out the geschmack of the world, it prunes us to be getting entangled in the world. What is its value? Gashmi is all of its pleasures. It's only the residue of the Eifanim and everything else. And why would a person would want to find his life by this and be dedicated? So he prunes himself. He removes the dross, the thorns. They're thorns. It's a pretty rose, but then you get closer and you get involved and you get hurt. So even though the rose itself represents the highest levels of Kedusha, 13-petaled rose, akolponim, to use an example of a pruning. But we just want to bring out this besimcha, even this avodah of merirus is besimcha. Why is it besimcha? Why is it besimcha? Because Hashem gives us the opportunity to connect to Him. Who put me here? I didn't. The Eibishter did. And He puts me in order that I should long and want Him. And connect Him in the deepest way. So this whole avodah of like sur mirah is besimcha. Psuke de Zimra. But this is all the avodah of Atman lamata lamayla. And then comes Shmoneh Esrei. And Shmoneh Esrei, Amidas, he's speaking especially the weekday Shmoneh Esrei, is Melamayda Lamata. As we can see, the whole language of the Shmoneh Esrei, it's all barachas in this world, Reifechelim and Varechashonim. We explained yesterday, elsewhere in Chassidus, he's going to bring it, I think. Shmoneh Esrei is the apex of the Aliyah, and he was saying, Melamayda Lamata, yes, because he's standing there in the inner king's chamber, and with all of his longing, he comes to recognize there that what does the Eibishter want? You want to connect to me? It's in the small details of Ilam Hazeh, in Reifah Chelim, Mevarech Hashonim. That's where our dear is going to be, our ultimate unity. So ask me for brachas for that. Ask for it. And let's be together. That's the shuv, which begins in theory in the Shmoneh Esrei, in Heichal HaMelech. That the bittul there is so great you can't even speak. Lord, open my lips, and I will sing your praises, relate your praises. And what are the praises? What do you want? And then so inspired, he says, Tachnon. How did you say Tachnon just after being in Atzilus? You're pure. And through Ader-Rabbi, having touched such an embers, all of a sudden, the truth I did yesterday is poultry. And again, I'm sorry. It's embarrassing what I did. It's a renewed. And of course, Tachlan is bringing it down. From Shmoneh Esrei till Aleinu, it's down, bringing it down. And Aleinu, finally, the world, it's a British, a Yid is a light to all the nations of the world. That's Aleinu is the climax of the whole Amshachim Lamat. Finally, not to be afraid and go out in the world and be a light and transform it. But Shmoneh Esrei is already beginning the process of Melamayda Lamat. So we are up to Eis Dalet. Uvezeh Yuvim. It's a few lines after the number 38 in the text. The footnote 38. And with light of the Bav will understand that sometimes it is explained. Shikar Avedi Kriyashma, the Ikar of davening, the Ikar Avedi Bechlal is embodied in the Kriyashma. b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol ma'itcha. L'pamim mevu shikar avodah yishmin esrei. In other places in Chassidus, it's like the Torah brings a source. The ikar avodah is yishmin esrei, the pashtus. Then when you say tefillah, it means tefillah stam means yishmin esrei, the amida, and it's the apex, and the halachas of it also indicate that it's higher than Kriya Shema. One has to be standing, in the laws of interruption of how stricter, etc. So which is it? What's the Iker? Is the Iker Kriya Shema or the Iker Shemanes? He answers and reconciles. With respect to the Nefesh Habahamis b'tiva yu b'tnuah d'yerida. So the Nefesh Habahamis by nature is drawn downwards. Drawn to materialistic and worse. Because the pasuk says, the spirit of him is drawn downwards. So Nefesh Habahamis means the conscious self. So then you got to break this nature, redirect it. Instead of being drawn downwards, we're going to be drawn inexorably. What's the word again? Inexorably. Will be drawn one way or another. You're going up or you're going down. It's almost beyond your choice. What's beyond the choice is the fact that you're drawn. Shaila is to what? So the avodah of Kriya Shema, which Nefesh Habahamis, is to work on Nefesh Habahamis. We're drawn, we're driven. Because we're drawn, we're driven. It's not enough. It's just not enough. He has 100, wants 200, and he has 200, wants 400. So where is this I'm driven going to be going? So if left alone, it's more materialism, more covered, etc. So the avodah of Kriya Shema, the avodah of bittul is to change the direction of that. Never enough, and it's never enough of you. So li is beli malmata l'mayla showing a Kriya Shema. That's the avodah of Kriya Shema. So when Chassidus says the ikar avodah is Kriya Shema, that's what it's talking the ikar avodah on the self and Nefesh Habahamis. Ach benigir Nefesh Halikis, but respect to Nefesh Halikis. Shemsad atzmai hu batnu dali. Nefesh Halikis itself doesn't have to be taught to long or pine for God. That's what it wants consciously. Here the avodah is the opposite. It's always the opposite. Here avodah l'shanis is tivoi. Here the avodah is changed the nature. Nefesh Halikis ibetnu shalam shocha l'mayla l'mata, that the yid should be drawn downwards. Shin shmenesa, that's shmenesa. Engage. Zeh ikar avodah, but again Nefesh Halikis. So Shvanesa the Amid embodies the ikar avodah of the Nefesh Halikis shaleiti, but no shalaliyim l'mata l'mayla. The Nefesh Halikis should not follow its natural instinct, which is ascent. No, Hashem did not create the world that it should be desolate. The tachlis the tachlis is the chesed to bring it down. So, so if the whole avodah is amshacha, why are we even engaging in Allah? Because that's the achon. Why there has to be the Kriya Shema, which is ascent? It's because in Ikol, in Allah, the whole ascent, it's only in order. That then it should be followed by the drawing downwards. They cannot be drawing down without ascent first. To touch the level which you want to draw down, to connect to it. Got to connect to it, to the ascending, to the transcendent, in order to draw it into the world. Therefore, we have to be careful. That the Hachon Avoid, which is the ascent, shouldn't be pure ascent only, like it was that they were longing and they resulted in Klei Nefesh, the soul departing from the body. Is there danger? Even as he's ascending, it's got to be with the knowledge and the preparedness that the whole Avodah is in order to reach the Nekuda of Alikus and bring it into the world. It shouldn't be a one-way trip. He's manifested everything. A Bach has to know in Yeshiva, on the one hand, it's pure Halah. His whole life, in our childhood, ought to be Halah. As we get older, we have to start developing recognition. This is all to bring it into the world. And likewise, in our Veda now, in our davening, in the Fabrengens, in all the moments of Ruchnius, to whatever degree, it's got to be with the recognition and the appreciation that this whole Shabbos, the whole Avodah of Shabbos is to bring this into the world, into the concluding now, likewise karbonos, tachlis and karbonos. So the whole purpose is shlach lehallah lamaila tiyagam shocha lamata. The korban, the fire that ascends. The whole point is that this should be the achana to bring down elikos into the world. That's the point of it all. Touch innocence in the ruchnius and bring it down. The pasuk says that the yin of karbonos is nachasuach lefanai. What does that mean? From the Medrash, Rashi brings it in Chumash. It's a nachas ruach before me that I said Eibishter, my will was done. What's nachas ruach? Nachas ruach meloshen nechois darge, to descend. Chosen means same letters. A chosen descends. That's the point of the karbonos. Tachlis b'avidas karbonos. Shim is a nachas ruach. That I should have nachas ruach, draw me into your world. I'm shocha lamata. So the Indians and Nasa, the Indian, I'm mincha v'nesachim dafke. So that's why the karbonos have to be accompanied by the mincha v'nesachim, the meal offering and the wine libation. That's the tefillin. That's the shmeina esrei within davening. Chesed chafatzti v'lo zevach, says the Eibishter. I want chesed, not zevach, meaning I don't want it to remain at zevach, not rejecting it. It's a critical hachana. If a person doesn't experience transcendence, he cannot suffuse the world with godliness. He's part of the problem. He's not going to be able to illuminate it. So there has to be the union of what? Of karbonis aliyah, but the kavanah has to be the chesed amshocha. The tachlis kavanah minav zevach ushim mizach kach prinas chesed. It should be followed by the chesed amshocha lamata, like the mincha v'nesachim, and that's expressed in the karbonis with the kohanim eating, even the korban oila, eating the mincha, and in every korban there being the nesachim, the wine offering.